Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to part 4 of my 2026 series on the vitrectomy for eye floater surgery. And today what I'm going to be talking about is why it's so important, if you're suffering from eye floaters, to be evaluated and to discuss your options with a retinal specialist, retinal surgeon. Critically important to go directly to those individuals because they're the ones who perform vitrectomy for a variety of reasons, not generally for eye floaters, but to repair more serious issues within the eye. And therefore, they have a better understanding of what a vitrectomy entails, what the risks are, and specifically they'll be able to correlate that more appropriately with your symptoms and your risk profile to ultimately decide collaboratively with you if a vitrectomy is something you should proceed with. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this is because I'm going to list out 4 different examples here today on misinformation that I've received personally by researching and having conversations with individuals who are in the eye care profession but are not retinal specialists. And I'll just kind of put an asterisk by this conversation. It might seem counterintuitive. You all are saying, well, Mark, you're not a retinal specialist. You're not a retinal surgeon. Why should I be listening to you? Fair enough. I mean, all I'm doing is just relaying my lived experience and a few examples from my life and why it's so important to speak with a retinal specialist as opposed to being a substitute for one. I'm not giving anyone any personalized advice. I'm not diagnosing everyone. This isn't even a conversation. This is just me on a blog. So that being said, though, take everything I say with a grain of salt because I'm recommending speaking with a retinal specialist and I am not one. So if anything I say contradicts what you hear in person meeting with one, then by all means listen to that. So it's not meant to be contradictory. It is meant, though, to illuminate some misconceptions out there, even within the eye medical community, and why it's so important to go directly to the source. So without further ado, I'm going to start with number 1, LASIK. This is a surgery I had done about 15 years ago. I was suffering from eye floaters in one eye at the time, not in both. And prior to the surgery, I met with the physician. I'm going to call an eye doctor. She might have a fancier title than that, but it was an eye doctor that was performing LASIK on me. And we were just going over what was going to happen the day of the surgery, prepping me that was going to happen the next day. And I said, I'm super pumped for the surgery. I did want to bring up the fact, though, that I have eye floaters in one eye. And I was optimistically hoping that maybe when we're in there doing LASIK, we could do something about those as well at the same time. And she said, absolutely not. There's no way it's completely unrelated, which is true. But she said, you don't want to do anything about the eye floaters unless you want to, quote, kill your eye, was the expression that was used. So obviously that freaked me out. I said, okay, I didn't really talk to an eye doctor about my floaters. I'd had them for about 3 years at that point. And after the first initial consultations, I didn't really broach the subject with any other ones. I had just kind of learned to live with it. In the sense that I didn't think there was really any remedy for me. And in that conversation, it shot it down further. The reason that I'm bringing this up is LASIK surgeons are not in the business of vitrectomy. They should not be giving advice on what to do for eye floaters. It is not their focus, it is not their forte, it is not their line of expertise. And while I'm not going to argue with the fact that their lived experience is there's nothing that should be done for eye floaters, really what should have happened is they should have referred me to a specialist to discuss it, as opposed to just saying, you'll, quote, kill your eye, and there's nothing you should do about it. Maybe I would have gotten to meet with someone who would have told me the same thing, but LASIK individuals are not people you should be discussing your eye floaters with in terms of seeking treatment or following their advice. That procedure is reshaping your cornea to improve your vision, and that is completely unrelated to making incisions in your eye and performing a vitrectomy to remove the vitreous jelly. They couldn't be any different, and unfortunately that conversation deterred me from researching the subject any further for a number of years until I became more informed about it and ultimately decided to undergo the procedure. That was a slap in the face, and looking back, I wish that I had not sought their expertise in that area. So that's number one. Second one is ophthalmologist. This may seem strange, and the point of this, though, is not to degrade that profession. Standard eye doctor care, ophthalmologist, or even an optometrist that you may go speak with your eye floaters about. And I'll caveat this by saying is they should most likely be your first line of defense if you notice eye floaters. So I'm separating the two here. They're not the ones that are going to be performing a vitrectomy or any type of surgical procedure on you to remove them, but they are absolutely who you should speak with first when you first notice them. And the reason for that is what their function is to understand if the eye floaters that you're noticing are a sign of something more serious, commonly retinal tear or potentially retinal detachment, which can be loss-threatening, vision-threatening, and have permanent damage to your eyes. So you absolutely want to see them. You absolutely want to talk to them about your eye floaters. You absolutely want to be examined by them. So not impugning them in any way. But their role then in this process is to rule out major complications associated with the eye floaters that have suddenly appeared and you're noticing. That's really where it ends for them. So absolutely listen to their verdict when it comes to why are you seeing these eye floaters, and is it something I should be concerned about in terms of the health of my eye. But from there, that's really their function, is to rule out serious complication. If you need to then seek treatment for your eye floaters just for that benign condition, this is disassociating it. If they're associated with a serious retinal condition, then follow their advice. But if they are saying your eye floaters are benign, there's no harm to your eye, you're safe, great. Then if you want to explore treatment further, you need to go to the retinal specialist. And my experience with this is they will tell you what the retinal specialist will say. So that is the frustrating part. I met with an ophthalmologist even this past summer after I've had 2 vitrectomies. I've been dealing with eye floaters for almost 20 years. I'm extremely well versed in terms of what they are and what can be done about them. And I said, I'm so glad I met with you. Thank you for ruling out a retinal detachment in my case, because I noticed some new ones last summer. I said, I'd like to talk to a retinal surgeon. She said, there's really no need for you to do that. I can tell you exactly what they're going to tell you. You shouldn't do anything about it. Great, I understand that. You've ruled out major complications in the eye. From your point of view, it's benign. But don't tell me what the retinal specialist is going to say. That's where they've broached the line of what really their function is, in my opinion, and why I've included them on this graphic. It's not because they're not educated in their job. It's not because they don't serve an important function when you notice eye floaters. But it's because they'll oftentimes then take the leap to, you don't need to do anything because of this, and this is what that person will tell you. I don't need that. Refer me to the retinal specialist. I'll talk to them. They very well and most likely will tell me the same thing, which I've talked about in prior videos. But I don't think that any medical professional, an ophthalmologist or anyone, should be speaking on behalf of another doctor in a different field, or a different specialty, I should say. So that was my lived experience. Went to the retinal surgeon. We're discussing a potential treatment plan, which is ongoing. I'm trying to get a second vitrectomy in one of my eyes, and that's a touchy thing, and as of right now, it's TBD. Third one is the staff. I'm going to make this generally short because I know that I'm approaching the 10-minute mark. I have, prior to a vitrectomy, the day of, I was sitting in the waiting room making chat with the staff of the retinal surgeon who's going to perform the surgery. She made a statement to me that said, this is verbatim, you are buying cataract surgery by getting this procedure done. I understand why she said that. It's a common theme that if you have eye trauma or eye surgery done, especially vitrectomy, that it will result in cataract surgery. I understand. she should not be speaking on behalf of something she doesn't really know about. She was simply repeating something most likely she heard the retinal specialist say, perhaps she heard other doctors say, and she was just projecting that onto me. Like, I'm surprised you're doing this. You're going to need cataract surgery in the future. Maybe I will. Something to consider. The way she said it with such authority, with such confidence, she's not an eye doctor. She's not a retinal specialist. She really should not be speaking as to what I'm going to experience post the surgery that she might be familiar with but does not perform herself and is not necessarily an expert, and should certainly not be giving advice or be drawing conclusions on what's going to happen to me. And I bring that up because you might have conversations with staff in the office, assistants, etc., and they're going to tell you things. Don't completely discount it. Verify it with the retinal surgeon. I think that, in my own opinion, one of the reasons why cataract surgery is so closely associated with the vitrectomy is because the majority of people who are going to experience eye floaters, get a vitrectomy done, are older, 50, 60 plus. Those individuals are more likely to develop cataracts anyway at that stage in life. So if you're simply saying that person's had a vitrectomy, now they have a cataract, correlating the two may be appropriate, not necessarily, certainly not appropriate in my case because I was younger when I had this, as in my mid-30s. And again, in order to make that type of statement, you should really be an expert in the field, staff or not. The last one, very quick, is out-of-date information on the web. Vitrectomy surgery used to be associated as a very unsafe procedure for a variety of reasons, and it no longer is at that same threshold today. It is much more effective, much safer surgery than it used to be. Are there risks of major complications? Absolutely. Will people have serious complications after undergoing this surgery? Absolutely. Is it a decision that should be made lightly? Absolutely not. If you're an eye floater sufferer, you should be very, very critical on whether or not your symptoms truly match the need for an invasive eye surgery. Those are all my disclaimers. But if you read studies, websites from the internet that are even just 10 years old plus, for sure, older than that, it's likely going to have outdated information that's going to give you probably the wrong impression about vitrectomy for eye floater surgery, and I genuinely recommend you read more up-to-date information to let you make a better informed decision, not pushing the surgery, but get the more updated, relevant facts. The reason why I say this is because vitrectomy, the surgical tools that they use, the vitrectors, are much smaller than they used to be, and the incisions they make in your eye are much smaller, often do not require sutures, and the holes that they're making can potentially heal on their own, which significantly lowered the chances of infection because the sutures that they would put in the eye oftentimes would lead to an infection, and that could be potentially blinding, lead to vision loss, serious problems in the eye. All those things can still happen, but the reduction in the percentage of it has occurred because those instruments are lower, or smaller, excuse me, and they make smaller incisions. Those are my 4 real-life examples. I hope that they encourage all of you to speak with a trained, qualified retinal specialist when you're dealing with your floaters, and I look forward to engaging with you all in my next update. Bye-bye.